Right. Radio St. Pete would like to thank the Will McLean Foundation for their support for the Florida Folk Show. The foundation produces the annual Will McLean Music Festival, featuring all Florida artists, monthly concerts, and awards annual college scholarships. The Will McLean Foundation also operates the Florida Sand Music Ranch. All right, Pete, you want to introduce our next guest?
Mr. Eugene Kelly is here. Eugene Kelly from the Native Plant Society, and he's been involved in environmental pursuits half a century or so, and most of it, a lot of it, with the Native Plant Society. We've had him on here before. We've done a special show with him, and people know that the Native Plant Society is very, very important. They're in the background a lot of times, but they know what they're doing. And the issue that he was just on the television this morning. I don't know what the purpose of it was. It was was it an old video or?
No, that was just from one day this week.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, there's two issues that I picked out, and one was the plans for a Polk County tollway is threatening the last wild population of a Florida native plant. Nobody thinks in terms of, they think of the wildlife, but people don't really think in terms of the plants that are getting displaced or ruined or made to go extinct. How do you bring that? Why is that? Why is that?
We actually have a term for that: plant blindness.
Okay. So
if somebody goes for a walk in the woods and you ask them, "Hey, what did you see?" They'll almost certainly name some birds, wildlife, deer, but rarely would they name a plant or even comment on the vegetation.
No, I talked to my wife about that whenever we go out hiking in like the parks or whatever on trails. Like, just the more I get to know the different plants, the more enjoyable it is to be out in the wilderness and recognize, like, oh, that's that, and oh, look at that cool one over there. It just adds a whole nother layer to the beauty of Florida and the experience of being out in the wild.
It does, and it's pretty important to note that you appreciate the wildlife. The wildlife are there because it's habitat, and ultimately the habitat is the native plant community. Absolutely. It's the thing that provides the trees they nest in or the fruits that they feed on, and so without the plants there would be no wildlife.
Well, I mean, in the case of the split oak forest, that was protected many years ago. It's gone through several different versions of protection, but all along and then suddenly, just last May, it was at the Game Commission came in there and just wiped away the protection that they had for that area in order to accommodate some sort of development, and it's when they talk about preserving the habitat, they're not even thinking about the plants the plants, flowers, native plants, are they?
Not often. You're right. And that split oak decision, that was really a devil's bargain. The commissioners, when they voted to approve that, to essentially allow a strip of that property to be opened up for developing a toll road expressway, they determined it was a net conservation benefit because there had been a deal made about 1,500 acres of contiguous land on the east side would be added to the preserve to make up for and then they would, if you look at it purely as that kind of transaction, 1,500 acres added to give up, maybe a couple hundred, it might sound like a good deal, but, if what you're giving up, what you're losing is really good habitat, and it is, they haven't built that road yet, supports scrub jays, gopher tortoises, other listed species. And then you think that the impact is just the footprint of that road. Well, everything around it is also going to change. It's not going to be quite as valuable for the public to recreate there, to hike there, to try and seek solitude when you have a high-speed expressway running right next to you. Fish and Wildlife Commission staff did a really stellar job managing that land, restoring the habitat so that it really could support scrub jays and gopher tortoises. And a lot of that required fire. How do you burn when you have high-speed traffic? So the actual impact of building that road extends far beyond the footprint of the road. It's going to have serious repercussions for the long-term future of that property. And the irony, of course, it's a mitigation bank for tortoises.
For tortoises, yeah.
And so now they have to mitigate for the mitigation. And what does mitigation mean?
Well,
what does it mean to
yeah,
conserve land in perpetuity?
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah.
Well, so I did want to talk about the Polk County Tollway. So the plant species, the Blushing Scrub Balm that only exists there. Can you talk a little bit about that? And
Sure. Dicerandra modesta. That is the only known site where we have a naturally occurring population. It may have some occurrences elsewhere, but that's one of many plant species that we call them narrow endemics. They're restricted to very small natural ranges. And the Lake Wills Ridge, where this occurs, is really world-renowned as just a hot spot of biodiversity because there are dozens of plant species and animal species that occur virtually nowhere else on the world, many restricted just to Highlands County or Polk County. And this Dicerandra is one of the more restricted. Again, just known from this one site, the Horseshoe Scrub site. And several of the alternative corridors that are being evaluated to accommodate this new toll road would impact that site.
So it's just taking a solution of putting the entire toll road up as a bridge.
apparently that's cost prohibitive, according to FDOT.
Well, I mean, they had that issue with the Florida Panther at one time, because we're, like when you go into you're on I-10 going through Louisiana, for a long period of time the road is up over the swamps, and so they've mitigated it to putting underpasses at the places where the panthers get hit by cars the most, different mile markers, and why do they even need that toll road? We were talking on the phone the other day. Why are they making plans for roads 50 years from now? Why is this happening?
Yeah. If we could
The
even,
logic of it.
Yes. If we could put aside the environmental impacts, we can't, but if we pretended there weren't any, they are predicting that based on the current rate of growth, that the population of Polk County will double by the year 2050. And so that's just assuming that this growth curve that we have now, explosive growth and development, is just going to continue for another 25 years. I understand they have to plan ahead and try to predict what they need to do to accommodate the people's transportation needs. But in this case, they're projecting that, again, population will double, and what that will mean in terms of congestion on the existing roads, especially Highway 27. And so they're planning to relieve that congestion by building this road. And what really puzzles me is it shows just such a complete lack of vision.
Yeah.
They are planning the transportation infrastructure of the future. And so if 25 years from now, all we're doing is building more roads to accommodate people driving more cars, we've already lost. If they had vision, if they were really planning for our transportation future, then they should be looking at ways to get us out of our cars. Right now, if you don't dismiss climate change as a hoax, about a third of all our carbon emissions are just from us driving cars.
Yeah.
Give us alternatives. So couldn't they spend this next 25 years between now and 2050 providing us other ways to get around?
Yeah, high-speed rail. Really, I'm still upset about Rick Scott giving up on those funds. Like, because at some point down the road, Florida would have been responsible for the maintenance or whatever, and just gave up high-speed rail for the whole state. And I don't know.
That was a tragedy.
Yeah.
It was. Well, it's going to require a new way of living. I mean, you're not going to be able to, if you need to get to Gainesville from St. Pete, and you know that right now, if Ocala, Gainesville, although when we lucked out at the Florida Folk Festival, there was no traffic that day and no cops. So everybody was going, including us, we're going 90 miles an hour. We didn't see a single cop the whole time from White Springs to the St. Pete Fifth Avenue North exit.
Wow.
Okay, never saw a highway patrolman or anything, So people were going fast, but at the same time, for some weird reason, it didn't have that particular day that we went.
Yeah, you did get lucky.
Yeah.
I've driven that stretch enough times to know
So
Gainesville to Ocala can be a real
Oh yeah.
traffic jam.
But yeah, I think also the assumption of Polk County doubling its population also just assumes that we're going to keep allowing these more and more development, and I just don't know that that's necessarily a good move, or that it's even what is going to happen. I mean, more and more throughout the state, you see people standing up to these moves to develop and pave over our wilderness, and I think that's a great thing. But yeah, I don't know, just assuming that the population is going to double and therefore we need to destroy this habitat to put in more roads just baffles me.
where do they
I
get
don't know.
the idea it's going to double?
Just
How
if
do
it
they-
continues at the trend that it's going right now.
Yes.
But
Okay, then isn't there another way to figure it out? Like
yeah, you could.
how long do the animals and plants have?
Yeah.
But
But yeah, so let's talk about that. So the endangered like a listed plant species in the Endangered Species Act does not get the same sort of protection that an animal would, or how does that work? Like,
Okay, so that the Endangered Species Act, federal U.S. Endangered Species Act, it prohibits the take of a listed species, threatened or endangered, and take can mean just outright killing it. It can mean destroying its habitat, although the Trump administration right now is trying to change the Endangered Species Act so it doesn't extend to protecting the habitat. But so if you distinguish the difference between plants and animals, if you have an endangered plant on your property, you can bring in a bulldozer and just take it out. It's your plant. Now, if it was a red cockaded woodpecker or a flatwood salamander, those are protected species of animals, and you could not just kill them.
Yeah.
But a plant, if it's on your property, it's yours. I couldn't go onto your property and destroy or kill those endangered plants unless you give me permission.
oh, all right.
That is a big distinction between.
So
where does
why
it,
is
where does
that-
it say that?
Yeah. Why is that a distinction? Like, is that actually written in the statute, or is it just how it's been interpreted by the courts over the years? Or
I think it's just always been that way.
yeah,
So we would love, the Native Plant Society would love to see plants get a little more respect. You know, an animal, most of them can at least get up and move. Plants are rooted in place. So there's not much you can do if a highway is coming or a subdivision is coming. They're just, they just don't receive that level of protection. Now, there is a distinction there. If the impact is going to be on public land, they're protected then. They, you know, you could get, you know, an exemption, a permit to have that impact. But if they are on public land, they are much more, they receive much more protection. Private property, it's your plant.
Yeah. So the wildlife corridor really doesn't have a whole lot of teeth in protecting the lands that it includes.
The plants.
Well, the Florida Wildlife Corridor is, you know, a lot of it is protected land. So
By private, by government.
a lot of it is not. It doesn't have any protection yet.
Yeah.
That's a vision. It's
Yeah, it's
a
the
blueprint.
the part that's not filled in on the map. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, we have, we support the Florida Wildlife Corridor as a mechanism for advancing land conservation, and we know that it's important to maintain connectivity so species can move, they can migrate. That's true for plants as well. But we also know that in a lot of cases, plants are restricted to smaller areas. And so there are some sites that are really critically important for plant conservation that are not in the Florida Wildlife Corridor. And the Florida Wildlife Corridor is really driving all the land conservation decisions right now. So again, plants can be left out in the cold. You know, a good example is this site where the Dicerandra modesta occurs, the Blushing Scrub Balm. It is on public land, thankfully, so it's already protected. But that if that land wasn't conserved and it wasn't in the Florida Wildlife Corridor, what would happen to it? It wouldn't even be considered a priority for conservation through the Florida Forever program.
So what stage is this proposed toll road at? Is it a guaranteed thing that this is happening, or can people still get involved and try to speak out against it? Or
Well, yeah, until the bulldozers come in.
yeah,
They are in the planning stages right now, and so they've just gone through what they call the alternative corridor evaluation. ACE, I think, is the acronym they use. And what they're expected to do now is identify the corridor that they would use to build the road. And they're supposed to announce that sometime in the fourth quarter of this year, so October, November, December. And after they do that, it would move from the planning stage to the PD&E stage, the project development and environmental assessment stage. And the further one of these projects progresses through that process, the harder it is to stop. So this is the best time to try and stop it before once they start acquiring right-of-way.
and they here is the Florida Department of Transportation.
Yes. Actually, the Florida Turnpike Enterprise. It's
Oh,
like
that's right. It's
the
a
arm
whole-
of
yeah.
FDOT.
Yeah. Well, where would the scrub jay be without its habitat?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Very habitat specific. You can see white-tailed deer just about anywhere. I see them crossing through my backyard now and again. But a scrub jay needs Florida scrub.
and so does a gopher tortoise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And yeah, and
there needs
as you
to
were
be
mentioning,
a new way of thinking, and
Yeah.
a new vision, because the people that are writing these plans for 50, 60 years from now, are they really seeing what's going to be happening here? I mean, then what?
It's there. The paradigm is just completely wrapped up in the status quo, doing things the same way we've always done them, and
Yeah,
that's really what offends me the most. That 25 years from now, all the Department of Transportation can see is building more roads to accommodate more cars, and
In subdivisions with the the CVS,
Ticky-tacky houses.
the Publix, they all have the same merchants at each big conglomerate of shopping center and everything else that just keeps going on.
Yeah.
It's disturbing to me, because I spent a lot of my life driving all those roads when I was a reporter working for the Times, and you go down 27, you see all these colorful things, and Tom Gaskins and the Gatorama and all these different things, and now it's gonna look like State Road 70 looks when you first just get out of Bradenton, or any of those roads, just
strip commercial and subdivisions.
the villages, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and going back to this Central Polk Parkway East extension, I think that's officially the term. So it began. They had 4 different corridors they were evaluating: A, B, C, D, and A was taken off the table almost immediately, because you mentioned Publix. It would have gone presumably through or displaced to Publix, and there's development that's happening, so you have to avoid that. And
Yeah.
and so then
It already came before the road. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but the natural areas, that's the path of least resistance. Yeah, we can't give up a Publix. It would be too expensive to have to buy out a Publix to build a road through that. So you just take public land or natural areas that larger parcels, and you don't have to deal with powerful corporations like Publix.
When's the next big event that people should look towards? The next big meeting, or
On this issue,
yeah,
well, I don't think there's really anything that we can do until they come out and announce the corridor that they've selected, again, in the fourth quarter
yeah,
of this year. But I'm going to contact them again. The official public comment period has already passed, but I really just want to keep pushing them on this notion of, please have a different vision for the future. You're the transportation professionals. Isn't there something else that we can do? And the assumption that the growth will proceed for the next 25 years as it has now, it seems to ignore realities like we're getting hit by more and more hurricanes. Homeowners insurance just goes up and up, and they're not doing anything to address it. The temperature.
of the whole place.
It is. Florida is becoming less attractive, and there are signs that now in some areas more people are leaving than are coming. Immigration out is countering a lot of that in-migration, and who knows what. Yeah, I call Florida home. I've dedicated myself to making it better, a brighter future for nature in Florida. But I also, when I look in my own personal crystal ball, Florida isn't going to be as appealing in 25 years as it has been, from
Yeah,
my youth. And so just the assumption that that growth trajectory is going to remain unchanged, I think it's unrealistic.
All right. Well,
Gene, thank you for coming down today.
really appreciate it.
Let's stay in touch on these issues, because we'd
Yes.
be glad to do what we can out here at Radio St. Pete. And
Yep.
I'd like to get the other two guys back here to do one more song before we head out.
All right.
Do you have
Yeah.
anything else?
Well, I want to hang around and maybe listen to them for a minute.
Oh, yeah, come on
They
in.
sounded great,
Absolutely.
and I do apprate your interest.
Yes,
Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Thank you very much.